Okay, gang, let's put the bongs down and get to work. Wonderful to have this crowd. You're all survivors of one of Victor's mightiest marathons. Brutal, right? And you've been through a lot. I will summarize the day. This is not the first or even the second coming of VR and augmented reality, nor the third. Some of this technology has been around for over 50 years. We've had false starts or just hopes, psychotic dreams of, and psychedelically fueled dreams of commercialization in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. For a variety of reasons, it seems like this may be real now. You were subjected today to descriptions of immersive displays, location-based entertainment, augmented reality, meaning, heads-up displays. Tonight will be a little bit more concrete. And the title of this is Mobility Driving the Commercialization of VR. That's a reach. Probably the prima facie reason there's all this heat in town here about VR is because of Oculus, right? Oculus Rift and the $2 billion, and they certainly wouldn't be speaking about mobility particularly, right? Because that's an immersive thing. Augmented reality is, the mobile thing, but we're not going to quibble about where you see this stuff or how you see it. We will tonight have some remarkable intelligence from 5 people. This is good. Valerie Carlson, to my left, is the creative director of Sapient Nitro. And if you haven't looked at their stuff, their site is killer, and their creative stuff is insane. We have Megan Crow from Gannett. You know what Gannett is? Who knows what Gannett is? You read it every morning, right? USA Today is one of their 140 newspapers, right? And they're interested in doing more than killing trees, so we'll hear some stuff about what they're thinking about. There's a guy named Aaron here, Aaron Luber from a startup up north. Something about cardboard, or I don't know. Andy Cochran is an interactive and new media director who smote me with his creative stuff. He is a bad dude in terms of his stuff, his creative stuff, you'll see. And Andrew Trickett is one of the purveyors. We have 2 people with, as it were, hardware. Well, we have cardboardware, and we have what Andrew's going to show us, which is Merge VR, which is an ecology. You know that you got to take the stuff, you got to store the stuff, you got to squirt the stuff, you got to display the stuff, right? One way or another. Not all of it is going to go through Unity to your iPhone. So he'll tell us about another path. So why don't we begin with Valerie, and I'll be the completely ineffectual PowerPoint dude while she talks about commercial, no kidding around, commercial, heads up, walking through the world applications of VR, please.
Do you want me to just pop up here? You should. Yeah. Thank you, moderator. Hi, guys. So I'm Valerie. Thanks for having me here today. I'm really excited to talk to you. What we're going to talk about is how might we shop in VR. So rather than talking about the sort of entertainment and gaming side of the world, we're starting to focus on retail. And the reason that we're doing that is because we have a lot of clients and a long history with sort of back-end technology, mobile, front-end creative, and storytelling and development in the space of e-commerce. And we work with some of the largest brands in the world: Target, Harley-Davidson, Chrysler, amongst a lot of others. And, we sort of are taking the position right now that e-commerce is really flat. So we have been doing this for many years, and we love, Sapient Nitro loves e-commerce, obviously. It's very important to us. We love personalization. We love data. But as creative people, there is a flatness that we deal with, right? And we are always trying to get around that flatness. We're trying to, put the right content in the right places and move people through the funnel. And so when we think about that and we break it down, we look at the fact that e-commerce doesn't really immerse us today, whether it's mobile or desktop. It's pretty much always a flat representation of a store aisle, which is really challenging. Many retail stores, they can't create a showroom experience for all their products. So we end up dealing with a lot of lower level imagery and not a lot of excitement or storytelling at a lot of levels. We can't emulate the excitement and the enjoyment of shopping with others. So social shopping, we've been trying to work on this for years in our space. And when we do it, but it's not really creating an impact, to be totally, honest. And we can't replicate the social connection and support either. So, we have ways to give people support, and you guys are all familiar with those little pop-ups and, typing in and talking to, a support person. But I think that we're not really dealing with immersive behavior when we talk about e-commerce, right? So what are we excited about in terms of virtual reality? We're definitely excited about presence and immersion. That's number one, and I'm sure if you've been to any of the sessions today that have talked about virtual reality, you've heard people talk about presence and immersion. It's critical, right? This idea that you can sort of really experience the world of retail or of a boutique or a shopping experience and feel like you're actually at that place and that point in time is really attractive to us. We can go beyond the physical aisle, and we can go beyond that stream of catalog images that we're sort of stuck with today. That's really exciting to us. And most importantly, and this is something that as a creative leader, for many, many years in digital, I have been talking to clients, teams, and younger people about this idea that human beings connecting is why we are here. Digital is supposed to be the facilitator for that. And so, we get really excited about the idea that we are moving towards, the space of virtual reality in a real way. And so what might that retail scape look like? Pretty simply put, it might be multidimensional. We might actually be able to do things with, space, time, place. It should be sensory. We should be able to help people understand, a sense of touch, feel, give them, this idea that they are present and they are surrounded by the beauty of a shopping experience. Should be expansive. So they should also be able to think about, the world beyond and sort of connective tissue. And we should also, get to a place where it's very shareable. And so this is kind of the space we would like to head. And the reason that we would like to head in this direction, I think, is summarized really well in this quote. So the motivation for almost everything we buy has something to do with connecting with other human beings. Even when it comes to practical purchases, the particular brand or product we choose relates to our connections with other human beings. And so, for me personally, I hesitated in getting into virtual reality and leading my teams down this path until we could get to a place where we could really think about the psychology of shopping. And I've seen some things recently that are getting me so excited about the psychology behind the space of virtual reality and starting to test and learn. So one of the things I want to be clear about when I talk to you today about how we might explore this world, I'm not drawing a line in the sand and saying that retailers are going to shift to virtual reality. What I'm saying is that agencies like ours can connect the dots and we can start to test and learn with particular retailers around particular problems. So we can do that by creating what we're calling show worlds. And, really that's just a term that we've created to help our retailers understand that if you have a particular problem that you're trying to solve, that might have to do with anything from a behavior that you're not able to attack, that consumers are interested in, to something that has to do with supply chain, there probably is a creative way that we can test and learn through a show world in virtual reality. And we can create immersive product experiences. So there are tons of case studies and ideas around this. We're starting to see this in the space of shoes, and we're starting to see it with outdoor goods, and there's a lot of conversation about letting people go to certain places and use gear. And I think that does make sense. And the more that we can help people immerse themselves in the worlds that they are going to utilize these products within, the smarter that we're going to be able to be about creating experiences in VR. Again, critical, and I might be repeating myself, but this idea that virtual reality is a lonely place is not specifically true. And we are headed towards some technology solutions that should allow us to test and learn around how we can interact with other people in VR. And we know that from a shopping perspective, there is massive lift when people are shopping together or having a conversation about the object that they want to buy. So creating this sense of discovery and inspiration is really important too. We also know that when people discover something in a store, these are so obvious, the things I'm saying to you, like, we know that there's discovery. That's why it's fun to shop. Like, how else can we create that? Well, virtual reality gives us some options that e-commerce does not. So it's pretty exciting to think about that. The way that we're summarizing that is that VR can be this intersection between story and technology, with a Y at the bottom, which is very important. Nice, huh? Just underlined beautifully too. This idea that we can create loyalty and engagement. And so I'm really talking about, some business challenges that we'd like to attack through the idea of prototyping and testing and learning. And we're headed to Cannes. We're going to talk on the innovation stage in a little bit. And I'm showing you Ted Shilowitz's Wild up there because we're partnering with him on some shoots right now. We're working very closely with him. We love what he's doing with entertainment. We're also partnering with PsyOp here in LA, and we're working on some concepts that have to do with the idea of a world within a very functional space. Some delight there. This is a little peek into some of the work that we're doing currently in New York. And the thing that I skipped in there was a little brief shot of some of the technology that, those are the STEM controllers that Sixth Sense. I don't know if any of you guys tried the demo downstairs. Yeah, cool. So we're partnering with them as well. And the reason that we are is because it's very interesting. They're helping to move the space of software and hardware forward. And so in partnership with us, we're really talking about what are the right stories and prototypes to create together. And so that's kind of where we're at. I think that's my last slide. Thanks, y'all.
Besides what we saw today at Sixth Sense when they were doing that sort of classical, if you will, VR, you folks know about the image that if you go to the Sixth Sense website, you'll see some of this stuff. But some of you will be familiar with the MIT Media Lab notion of basically turning the world into a screen. And this is, you could think of this as an augmented reality sort of approach, but Sixth Sense is pioneering something that Nick Negroponte at the Media Lab talked about 25 years ago, which is make the @ sign in the air with your finger, with some sensors on your finger, and any surface can project with a little projector, of course, your email. And you point at an object, again, with little tiny sensors at the end of your finger, in a store, and prices, availability, colors pop up and are overlaid. So check out that activity, the Sixth Senses activity beyond the immersive stuff that you saw today. And it's really, really big stuff. It's really, really critical stuff. All right, let's hear from Gannett. Ms. Crow.
My name is Megan Crow. I'm here with Keynote Digital tonight, and we are so excited about what's going on with virtual reality. We have over 140 newsrooms throughout the United States that we are in the process of training on how to use virtual reality for storytelling. We've recently released an application, both Android and iOS, called VR Stories. that has some of this sample content that's being distributed. We've partnered with the US Ski team and captured some of their trainings. We've also partnered with the Cincinnati Reds with their spring training as well. We're excited about the sports segment. We see that's a really exciting way for people to really engage with the players and the experiences with the sports. But that's kind of the tip of the iceberg for us, and we're constantly looking for how to create new stories. And as we're going through a major transformation with Gannett, going from a print publishing business to a digital media company, we're looking for how we can engage new users in a unique and innovative way, and really think that virtual reality is that tool for us, and is going to be able we're going to be able to kind of definitely really attract and engage with the millennials. So we really applaud our folks at Google for helping get the tools out there for being able to reach the masses. But on the content side, we're definitely doing this through our applications. It will be promoted through our local websites and media properties. We're in the process of doing deep linking that will link to the applications and be able to pull up the specific experiences in the apps that relate to the news stories that you're reading about on a media level. We've just received our first sponsorship as well in Cincinnati for one of our virtual realities. So we're definitely starting to see the advertising interest, which is huge for us, and really see it as a sustainable model for journalism and storytelling. That's kind of what we're doing.
I mean, you think about, we all know the story of the Syrian, refugee camp and the VR experience there. Just think about what would have happened to Baltimore, or what would happen the next time there's a Hurricane Sandy and or in Kathmandu, if there's a presence of that sort, a telepresence of that sort, and it's inevitable and it's coming, and they're going to figure out how to not only execute that stuff, but editorially curate and monetize in terms of the commerce that follows and supports that activity. Aaron, we're going to get to you. Okay. We're going to do you, but I want to promise. I want to do Andrew Cochran, and want to hear about.
You got two Andrews in a row.
I know. We got two Andrews. We had two Daves this morning. We got two Andrews tonight. But I want to do Andrew one. Cochran from Murata, and hear more about the creative thing. Then we'll go into the hardware.
Awesome. So I'm a digital and interactive director, and I work in immersive and interactive storytelling. But Murata has a lot of traditional work as well. We do feature films, we do commercials, tons of commercials, music videos, a tiny bit of TV, even some print. I work in all of that, but then I also work in our sort of special projects group. And we, one of your slides really rung true. You said VR is the intersection of storytelling and technology. We actually say Murata is the intersection of storytelling and technology, because that explains how we approach everything. So everything that we do starts with story. What is the story we're trying to tell? I am an immersive and interactive guy, so I actually have a very skewed version of what a story is. To me, a story is an experience, if it's in that world of immersive and interactive. So we either start with the narrative, the story, or the experience that we're trying to create, and then we use technology to find the best way to kind of create that experience. VR is absolutely a huge part of that. Very excited about augmented reality as well, but we do tablet apps, we do mobile apps, we do web experiences, as well as large installations for various clients, as well as even like projection mapping and other live events. So we have a really wide range of technologies and mediums that we work in. But at the end of the day, it's always about storytelling, be it a script we write or an experience we create. Our interest in VR started about 2.5 years ago when we got our first Oculus Rift. And we have this process where anytime a new technology comes in, or there's a Kickstarter or an article, we try to get a copy of it, get it in-house and start playing with it, take it apart, not necessarily literally, but just try to understand it, what it's good for, what it's bad for, how it works, how it doesn't work, so that when a project comes in and that technology makes sense, we already know where its weaknesses and strengths are, so that we can apply it. So we started 2 years ago down the path of how to do VR. And for us, that meant how do we translate all of our storytelling techniques and technologies and sort of artists thinking into VR. So that covered live action, everything from shooting to editorial, VFX, compositing, finishing, to pre-rendered CG, basically taking everything we could do, as well as real-time interactivity. How can we either do real-time rendering or just have these pre-rendered things controlled under the hood by an interactive engine? And our first project was actually, I didn't know Aaron at the time. We knew him actually after we finished the project, but it was for Google. If you saw the Murata booth and if you checked it out, it's a cardboard app. It's a virtual reality tour of a shop. I'm gonna draw that. I'm gonna try and figure this out. I'm gonna connect all the dots. And it's essentially, it was designed to be a press kit sent to journalists that just introduced a new Google shop. Google is now, instead of having kind of like an Apple store kind of environment where you go and you try hardware, Apple doesn't really make hardware, or Google doesn't really make hardware. They make web-based experiences, Google Maps and Doodles and searching and photos and all of this stuff. So their new retail environment is actually experience-based. It's a place that you go to experience and play with the things that Google does instead of decide if you want a Nexus tablet or a phone. They're there, but they're there in the same way a gift shop is at an aquarium. So this VR tour is designed to be a VIP first-person tour introduction to that space and to that concept. And it's not even, we didn't even work with Aaron's group because it wasn't meant to be a VR experience to show how good VR can be. It was actually, that was the best way to create the experience that they wanted, which was this VIP behind the curtain first-person experience of this store. As we came down the line to completion, we were asked to kind of release it internally at Google and then actually release it to the public. So now it's out there. But it started as a very simple, almost for us, proof of concept that everything we've been working for 2 years to build is technologically possible, which is it's live action, it's pre-rendered CG, seamlessly composited. If you see the app, the whole environment, the white curtains in the ceiling, it's all CG, full stereospherical, full spatialized audio, as well as full interactivity for navigation. There's also menu down below to control the video. So long-winded way of saying this app, it's the first thing that's out there, but we've been working for about 2 years so that as this stuff comes down the line, we're able to take our traditional content creation tools and techniques and apply them to VR. So very long-winded, sorry.
That was great. Andrew Trickett is a co-founder and chief financial officer of Merge TV, and now we're Merge VR, excuse me. And now we're moving into the hardware and the soft hardware. So please.
Awesome. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew Trickett, and as Marty mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of Merge VR, CFO, but I basically do the business stuff, and my other co-founder does the technical stuff. That's how we divide things out. We're out of San Antonio, Texas, but we're out here a lot. We have quite a few investors. Actually, several of Oculus's early investors are backing us. So we're out here quite a bit and out here to develop the relationships with content developers, both in the gaming world as well as the video world, and many other forms that virtual reality is taking. Just by way of introduction, what we're doing is our overall ethos and mission is to make virtual reality accessible to the mass consumer market. So has anyone read Crossing the Chasm by Jeffrey Moore? You know what I'm talking about? If you haven't, it's one of the seminal books in terms of how technology is adopted by society. And it starts out with the early adopters, and they're typically very tolerant. It's all about certain specs that they want to see, certain functional capabilities, but then in order to get adopted by the early majority, then the late majority, the massive commercial market, it really needs to have, the products need to have a lot of other characteristics, primarily ease of use. And other things start to matter in terms of the purchasing decision. And that's what we're building our company around and the offerings around is trying to make it very easy for, when I think about, inspiration is not only, my sister, who's a very intelligent woman, she's a psychiatrist, but she's a technophobe. She's definitely not a technophile. She wants something she can just pick up, open up the box, turn it on, and it just works. And it's just really intuitive and easy to use. And she wants that, for her son and for her daughter. And that's what we're shooting for in terms of the overall experience. So what we're allowing users to do is use the smartphone device that you probably already have in your pocket right now, whether that is a fine Android device or one of Apple's offerings, whether it's a smartphone or actually an iPod Touch. And we allow you to, I actually thought I'd just do a little show and tell, this is our headset. And, it has fairly universal phone support. So pretty much the vast majority of smartphones have been sold in the last 2 years. We support. We have adjustable lenses, and this is where some of our proprietary technology comes in terms of detecting exactly where your eyes are at. So we can start to do things around arranging the image for the best possible image that we can give you, given your phone in your face, for that particular combination. And it comes down to things like placing the right virtual camera right over your right pupil, and similarly, doing the same thing with your left pupil. And this becomes very important for the quality of the image that you see, contributes to making sure that you don't get motion sick, that it's a very pleasant experience all the way around. So this is some of our proprietary technology within the optics. And then you'll notice that I kind of left out the most obvious thing, which people notice is the form factor. It's a high-end foam formulation, very durable, which, I've dropped my phone probably 3 times today. That's the way that we are with our devices. We drop things, we spill liquids on them, and we wanted something that's very durable out in the real world. Another thing that we're doing is that we've made it out of closed cell foam. And the reason that we did that is that people are starting to wake up to the hygiene issue in virtual reality. This is something that we're putting on our face, might be sharing with others. And we made it closed cell foam so that it's very easy to clean. You can kind of think of it as like the surface of a yoga mat that you just, I guess you could dunk it in water and leave it on the dryer to, the air rack to dry, but not sure I'd recommend that, but you could. So that's the headset. The other part of what we're creating in this whole platform is basically, you can think of it as a wireless Wii, that it's a 9-axis motion sensing gestural controller that has a lot of different buttons on it available to the developers. So for standard gameplay, you have the A, B, X, Y buttons, an analog thumb slider, back and forth trigger, and 2 other buttons to play with. It connects via Bluetooth LE, and that's one of the small touches, like why did we do that versus classic Bluetooth? Because you don't have to pair. You just open up the package, you turn it on, it just connects, it just works. And that's the whole experience that we're going for. Yet another experience that I can't show you, but can kind of talk about, is that our Discovery portal, which is going to be a mobile app, both for kind of bopping in and out of the device, the applications that you've already downloaded, as well as discovering new ones, is going to be fairly heavily curated. That we're going for quality over quantity. It's not our goal to have thousands of apps, 80% of which are the VR equivalent of fart apps. We want high quality content, whether it's games, whether it's video, whether it's journalistic experiences, whether it's educational experience, exploration, meditation, even, clinical therapy. So that's what we're kind of going for and building overall. And one of the things Marty asked is kind of, beyond, introducing the firm, is that, what are our thoughts and perspectives on mobile virtual reality, since that's what this panel is about. And I guess I take a lot of inspiration. I like to give you guys something to think about from the gaming world, is the brilliance of Angry Birds. Because think about Angry Birds versus a console game. The mobile phone has a lot of limitations relative to an Xbox or Sony PlayStation, but it also has a lot of new capabilities that those devices don't have. And the brilliance of Angry Birds is not only did it kind of cheerfully and unapologetically live within the limitations of what that device had, but also took advantage of some of these new capabilities, such as its portability, the swipe gestures. And I don't know exactly what that's going to be in mobile virtual reality in terms of gaming, or how you translate that into video or other types of experiences. But that's just kind of a thought that I wanted to kind of put out to the audience, because a lot of people ask me, what do you think the killer app is going to be in mobile VR? Hell, I don't know. but it's not up to my imagination. It's up to your imagination. And I would just kind of encourage you to think about the new capabilities and just kind of cheerfully and unapologetically living within the limitations that mobile VR does have over some of these tethered, high-powered devices. Thank you.
That's great. I'm reminded of something really great that I.M. Pei said when he got the Pritzker Prize, which is the Nobel Prize for Architecture. He said, creativity is born in constraint and dies in freedom. If you could do anything, you'd probably do nothing. Aaron Luber is in charge of partnerships for Google Cardboard.
Thanks, Marty. My name's Aaron. I work for Google. And so Cardboard is almost 1 year old at Google I/O coming up in about a month. That will be the first year anniversary of when we unveiled it to the world. It was 14 seconds of Sundar Pichai's speech at the very end. And he just kind of said, oh, yeah, and by the way, this is under your seat. And everybody was like, what the hell is that? And then lo and behold, everybody took this thing and started playing with it immediately and took it out. And it was a demonstration of the power of the mobile phone, really, at the end of the day. And it was something that, when you look back, a year later and what we've got planned and the fact that we had literally nothing 1 year ago, and then we're approaching this 1 year anniversary, and the ecosystem that's been built, and all the the companies here and pieces that touch it is truly amazing. It really, really is just. I mean, the entire VR landscape is just brilliantly budding right now, and it's very amazing for me to see. Be it on the hardware side, be it on the content side. I mean, I'm very, very excited for what you guys are doing. It's at the end of the day, I think, Cardboard, its ability is in the mobile device. And I think, Andy, you put it really, really well there, about the creativity of what people can make. The Google Play Store is where you get your apps for Cardboard. It is, starting back in about November 2014 was when we kind of firmly came out of this 20% status that we had been put on, and said, this is something seriously we're going to focus on. And at that point, we really had nothing from an SDK perspective, from tools. There was a Unity plugin, a bunch of ways to improve upon the ecosystem again. And in literally a short 6 months, we went from, again, nothing to hundreds of SDK-enabled apps in the Play Store, millions of installs of those apps, and just great content. There's about 30 or 40 new apps coming on the Play Store every week now. A lot. The beauty of the Play Store is that it's wide open. Anybody can put content up onto it. So not all the content is great, but I think at this point, when we are experimenting with so much stuff right now, it's just a great opportunity to showcase, just amazing, interesting, great content. I mean, what Murata did with the Curry Shop, I think was, in no offense, and I'm saying it about Google. I mean, it's a Google shop. It's a store. It's like great. You come in, but what they did, the beauty. I mean, the immersion, the blend of CG and live. We hold this thing on a pedestal. We feature this app in the Play Store right now because of the quality and the experience of what was made. It's not just about making a mobile game or something like that. It's about, I'm very, very interested right now in not just a app that comes onto the Play Store. How do we take advantage of apps that are available already in people's hands all day long with millions of installs that already exist? So news apps that you guys already have, and what you were just literally talking about. I'm reading an article on my phone about Syria, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's a little cardboard icon, boom, and now I'm actually there, in Syria, and I'm checking out. I mean, this blend of going from this thing in my hand to this thing up here, I think is a really, really powerful opportunity for mobile VR. Obviously for Cardboard, for our newly announced program works with Google Cardboard, which is just our ability to work with all the amazing third-party partners that have also come on. And again, in this 1 year in this growth of the ecosystem, our friends from DodoCase are here too, and the work that they've done, and these plastic ones that people are making. I mean, it's really incredible just to see this great ability to take your mobile phone right out of your pocket, a simple device, and then just really quickly go in and out of experiences. Merge VR, being able to put it on your head with a controller very, very seamlessly and easily. There's a lot of really cool, not even cool. I think we have opportunities where we don't need to necessarily reinvent the wheel. We don't need to go out and create brand new applications. We are doing that, and I think we will continue to do a lot of that. But I think we should also be focused on what we already have on the mobile phone in our hands and how we can enhance that with virtual reality. So I love what you guys are doing. Yeah.
We're excited about it.
Thank you. So after this day of buzzing, confusion, and excitement, I'm sure you have a few questions, and we'd be happy to entertain them. I'd like to point out one thing about what I've heard tonight. I don't know what I really expected tonight. I was hoping we would stick to the topic, and we did, but I didn't expect the kind of excitement and even inspiration I'm feeling, because McLuhan said, to break through to new knowledge, organize your ignorance. So we could organize our ignorance right now. We don't know anything really about interface in this environment. We really don't. I can promise you it's not going to be gloves and hands in the screen. It's not. But we don't know, we don't know anything about, we remember the MP3 player, and then along came the iPod. I mean, there's an interface thing. Apple knows something about interfaces. Google is going to learn everything about interfaces. I mean, their business is organizing information. We don't know what of the many verticals. I was pleased that this morning when I asked who is here to do narrative entertainment, only about 4 hands went up. That was great. That was really great. I should ask it again. Who here is going to make movies in VR? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Go and live and be well. Who here is going to do something in education or training? Slightly bigger number. Who here is going to do something in some of the verticals? I mean, meaning medicine and industrial stuff and God knows what. The bigger number. And we don't know where this is going to pop. So what excites me about the capabilities that these inspired people have offered is have indeed the beginnings of a user-generated ecology. Really, even the device at the other end of the table is this brilliant thing that adapts to anybody's phone, and has just groovy optics for compression. And by the way, it's 7 centimeters almost precisely between all of your eyes, everybody's eyes, and that's throughout the world. But it varies a little bit. And given the resolutions we're dealing with and luminance, it's very, very critical, plus or minus a millimeter, to know where the center of the pupil is if you're going to show people what looks like 3D. And those cats are working on that. That's a big deal. But the rest of what we've got here is really about you. It's about you coming up with great partnership ideas for Aaron. It's about you coming up with brilliant ideas for Ms. Crow at Gannett about how to turn the news channel into something, turn it essentially inside out and make it really work in the realm of bits, not atoms. It's about these incredibly brilliant creative people and talking to them and seeing if you got some juice that you can add to what they're doing in commerce and in reaching out to people to communicate for not just sales, but persuasion and growth. It's all about you. So anybody got any questions after all this? Yeah.
You didn't mention sports in your holdout there, and I was sort of upset about that because I think that virtual reality sports, or the experience that adrenaline TV brings to the user interface, is at the front of what we're doing. I can take you, you know, sky surfing or whatever you want to, you know, whatever the sport be. I have 226 different sports. So I'm thinking that what I'm doing is a VR wanted. I'm confused why you didn't bring it up.
Well, you know, actually, there were this morning when the initial discussion about this stuff, I mentioned 3 things that I thought were so obvious that they barely merited mention: porn, first-person shooter games, and sports. But I have real respect for sports, and some great stuff has been done already in sports. Some really awesome stuff. You know, Gannett has done something great. They did something in Iowa. You want to tell us about that thing? Well, they basically went to Vail, and they did a VR thing with the national ski team, and it was really cool. It's really great. And actually, what's interesting, where was it screened? Was it shown in Colorado? I think. No. And you could see this actually if you look online under Gannett and Vail. If you just do those 2 things on the Google, you'll
Download the app.
Yeah.
Share stories.
you'll see it, and it doesn't take anything fancy.
Devices
Yeah.
to actually experience it, but we have a VR mode and a mode that you can see on.
They have a player mode that's stitched, and it's pretty doggone cool, you know. And in this transition thing, we'll need some of that. They also did something in Iowa, and I can't recall.
Something called Harvest of Change, which was a pure storytelling. It was a farm in rural Iowa, and through the virtual reality, you're really able to experience every aspect of the farm and tour. And you know, it's really, I mean, we've really been playing with it and seeing what works and seeing what the users are our users that are already engaged with our products, how they're reacting to these types of experiences. And we've had phenomenal results with it.
I'm sure you will. I'm happy that you're here.
We're excited about it.
I mean, the thing that's exciting about Gannett to me is they've got all this regional and local stuff. And so they can't just think in terms of, you know, USA Today, you know, and mass stuff. They have to think about Colorado and Iowa and Idaho and all the places where they've got rags and figure out how to convert from the atoms to the bits and keep their audience and maybe even grow the audience with millennials who will get turned on.
Could I ask a follow-up question for you? Are you asking about first-person, full-body playing the sport in VR, or just spectator watching the sport?
I have different versions of it in my head. I have my host climbing a wall, let's say, whether it be a virtual wall or a real wall. I think that I can do it in a real wall. So
Sure.
my idea is I have my host go every possible combination up, and then as the user interface goes, it becomes like a game where they can change their being. She's still in the same place. She's just gone a different way. So I see the virtual reality thing is that you'll feel like you're climbing with her, but you'll be able to have that tertiary or secondary shot where you see her on the mountain. But most of it's that you feel like you're climbing as you're with her.
Sure. There's a couple experiences, specifically mountain climbing experiences. Jaunt filmed one recently, and there was one on YouTube 360 recently. Who was that? It's a longer piece. They're climbing a mountain. I'm trying to. It's not a VR experience yet. The second one I was mentioning, it's a 360, but it can be put in headsets.
We need to talk afterwards because I know that I've got it in my head. I know how to shoot it.
Sure.
So what that immediately triggers that's so interesting, I mean, and this is exactly the kind of stuff that all of us are going to experience, is I start thinking about quadriplegics or paraplegics. And I think about somebody who's had senior citizens and people, right, and people who want to regain mobility or muscle, you know, mass, doing guided utilization of this stuff. And obviously it's going to be used for that stuff. That's a great idea.
One other thing, but on the other side, a lot of people talk about, you know, how are we going to sell tickets to the game? How are we going to put you on the 50-yard line? How are we going to put you on the court? And how are we going to virtually sell those tickets at some point? And I know that, you know, I'm sure a lot of teams and leagues and everybody are very interested in trying to figure out how you do that. Virtual reality could do that for you. I mean, I don't know if anybody has sat on, you know, on the floor of a basketball game before. I got to do that very recently, and it's great to have the perception of, you know, being right there and seeing it, but it's too close.
It's too
and
close.
there are things like when I'm watching this and all of a sudden it goes to the other end of the floor.
I think the secondary and tertiary camera angles are really important
Yeah.
to make sure that happens. But I still think that hockey's got the GoPro connection right now. I'm telling you, that's going to vault hockey up 2 more notches in being the 5th or 6th sport right now, because that's going to be so exciting. You will not be able to you won't be able to tear yourself away when you're the goalie. You're watching the shots come at you from every guy.
That's a scary idea.
I'm telling you, it will change hockey mark by word.
Yeah.
Sure, that makes sense. I mean, bringing up another interesting idea, which is proximity and proxemics and the whole notion of how close you want to get to the action, you know? I mean, there's a lot of stuff I can think of, from first-person shooter stuff to sports, you know, where I'd want to be halfway up instead of right down, you know, with my nose on the goal line. Yeah.
Hey, so I produced a VR film recently, and I entered the Oculus Jam, and they deemed it objectionable because it was too mature. So what we're seeing right now is a lot of Disneyification of like all the content that's coming out. There's no voices right now. I'm glad that you're going to be curating your content like Vimeo, because that's what we need right now in VR. But like everything you're seeing out there, like that doesn't have a voice, I think some of us are being held back by the Oculuses and the Samsungs.
I disagree. Have you tried an Android app in the Play Store?
I mean,
I mean, was it rejected? No, I'm saying making, like, sure, Oculus, those, 10,000 users are blocked to you now, but there you've got millions and millions and millions of these things out there right now in people's hands in various incarnations, and it's free to upload an app to the Android store. I do agree, yes, Oculus is trying to build a walled garden, as will Valve, as is Samsung, but they're not the only game in town, and that's a big part of this panel is mobile first. Oculus, they've sold 150,000 units. They're all in a drawer. There's no Oculus. Raise your hand if you have an Oculus. Raise your hand if you use it on a consistent basis. 2, 3, 4 people. This is the core people. Everyone should have raised their hand. Yeah. Everyone should have kept it up if you use it. There's not a lot of Oculuses. There's no Vives. There's very few Samsungs. There are millions of these. And wait, now you're complaining about too much access.
Yeah. Hey.
For thousands of users, they're not in any kind of volume. There's like this is the only thing that's at volume. You want to talk about hitting volume? You want to talk about an audience? It's literally cardboard or nothing right now. You're either talking to a bunch of ourselves, we're talking to each other, developers, content creators, or you're talking to a real audience. The only real audience that actually exists right now is on the Google Play Store. It's not even iOS.
And also, it's leverage for you as a content creator. Get it out there and then go back to Oculus, down the road and say, hey, wake up.
I think Google Play is going to be cracking down similarly.
They have pretty clear content. iOS and Android both have very clear content guidelines, but those guidelines are not, they're pretty objective. And sure, if you're doing something absolutely objectionable, like, torture porn, kitty murder, whatever it is, they may
kitty porn.
They may reject that on sort of, objectionable content grounds, but it's certainly not Disneyfication. They're certainly not. Aaron can probably speak. I don't want to put you on the spot and say Aaron will tell you what will get rejected, but
we'll give you his email.
But there's very clear content guidelines. There's porn in VR right now. You can download porn apps. Oh, absolutely. Are you serious?
We can make some tonight.
Honestly, if you want to be in VR, you have to have seen the porn.
Talking about low-hanging fruit. Yes, please. Yes.
I think that's kind of what we're trying to investigate. And the second piece that I previewed just briefly up there with the sketches that SciOp is working with us on, I think is a good example. So if you think about a very functional object like a washing machine. When you talk to people about purchasing a washing machine, they look at you like it's the most torturous experience they've ever had in their life, right? It's a very high dollar object. It's something they don't necessarily want to replace. And so, one of the things we're thinking about is, how do you talk to people about the functional benefits of something like that, but let them experience it in a really joyful way and also bring it to the family together so they can, this is that intersection of story and technology that we're talking about. So I think your point about taking things that are very restrictive, giving yourself limitations and then trying to figure out really creative ways to move through those limitations is the space that we're going to try to play in when we test and learn with our retailers. But the one thing that I do want to point out is we do think it's very critical to map to two rules. Number one, we need to be solving a problem. We don't want to just put things out there for retailers that aren't benefiting them. They need to be learning about new behaviors. They need to be learning about personalization, data, the same things that we focus on in e-commerce. We have to take that to the next level so that retailers see this as a real solution. We want to make sure we're not just playing and creating another commercial. That's really critical. And number two, we have to make sure they tap into their existing systems so that they, to your point earlier, that phone is a connected device. So if I am looking at something and understanding it in VR, I need to have all of that same experience in some fashion captured on my phone. It's the same space that I'm playing in, which is a major benefit.
Sir, wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
And what about VR within the retail spaces? What could be the functionality of having VR experience?
That's a good one.
Yeah, huge benefit. I mean, to be very honest, that's actually where we're thinking primarily right now, because although cardboard is amazing and there are it is very easy to get one of those, a lot of people aren't doing it, right? So we're going to have to show them in retail how this works, and we're going to have to do it well. So holiday is coming, right? You can imagine that when there are a couple really obvious things that we should be doing. Verizon and AT&T should be having, opportunities and experiences for people to view all this stuff at holiday in the stores. And if they don't, it is a giant miss.
If they only had a brain.
And that's retail, right? So you're talking about exposing people to the beauty and the potential for these experiences. That's number one. And then the second piece is in store. So think about what a Home Depot or a Lowe's pays to put kiosks in their stores today. It's very expensive. Think about what other retailers do with pop-up events. They're very expensive. So one of the things that we've talked to our clients about is you are investing in certain technology right now. And in some ways it may be working for you, but this is, this can be a lower cost investment to get people to see product that they cannot see in your store today. You can better merchandise potentially, and you can think about loyalty because people can take this home with them. So you have the opportunity to not only help sell a tool, but then help people be loyal to your, other experiences that are, tied to that tool. You can use that tool to, in a better way because you have instructions and you're actually going to use those. They're not a piece of paper. There's a million different ways we can think about use cases, and we have to be really strategic about those.
Yep.
It's also, the Mount Everest of infotainment if you're smart and creative, I mean, God, think of what you could do with underwear in VR. Sorry.
I can't with underwear and VR.
Can you expound on the underwear?
I'm going to do it in the context of sports in a moment. Just
So, like in the past, there was the Betamax VHS.
Oh, yeah.
My question to the panel is, the one thing has to do with ID, let's say in home. I don't know what you want to call it, but
Yeah.
VR, say VR like in home, from that perspective. Do you find that advertisers right now are worried that they're not sure if the messaging will get across because they're not sure if a platform, not that it's ready or not, but what platform will exist and will they be able to take the content they've created and move it to any platform that makes sense? Because right now, one platform means one thing, one platform means another. It's not really set so that there's, a simple guide of how things get done. Can you speak to that? I would really like to hear what kind of pushback you're getting from advertisers and marketers.
Well, what I'll say is that I'm going to expand that to just all kinds of different IP creators, including sports teams and including, even game makers. is that we're kind of at that stage where, the Rockefeller story of when TV first came along, the first television shows were plays on stage were literally people standing around a microphone talking. And we're still kind of at that stage from a content development story for VR. And just to give you some two examples that I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with, one is just with 360 cameras, if it's sitting in the middle of the action and I as a director can't control exactly what you're looking at, how do I use this new medium? It has a lot of new freedoms, but a lot of complications. And I think most people are still trying to figure that out. How do you tell stories when the user can just do this, anytime in the middle of your film? And similarly, what I would also say is even say with game makers, I still see a lot of developers that are trying to take proven IP that worked well in a non-VR world and just kind of directly, translate, hey, I'm going to add a third dimension to it. And it comes across like colorizing black and white film. It just usually doesn't work. You really need to build it from the ground up with a new mentality. And you see that the people building the most interesting experiences are usually not the big established names, although with some exceptions, it's the independents coming in with, some fresh thought about, how would I use this thing? And I don't have a preconceived notion about how to do that. So that would be a general answer that I get. And I find that when I have interactions with, these types of IP owners, they're usually at that stage not so much worried about, well, which platform is going to prevail, but like, how do I use this new technology in a very just fundamental way?
But insofar as your question is about standards, specifically standards, right? So it's not Betamax VHS.
But there are other players that are coming out and they're saying, look at what I have. To your point, Oculus put out 150,000 units. There's only 4 or 5 people that are actually in this room watching it all the time, and many of us have those units. And that's a different type of processing because it requires what's on a desktop versus what's coming out of your cell phone.
Right.
And not only the cell phone today, but the cell phones tomorrow.
Which will resemble desktops, in terms of capability. Right.
So what I'm saying is that if I'm going to spend, let's say $1 million or $2 million to do a project.
Don't do it.
No, we're not going to spend that much money. Yep.
I was going to say, come to us. Yeah, we'll take that.
Go to Murata.
Sweet, 2 mil. Let's talk.
It's the low overhead solution.
That's not the point. The point is that marketers have money. They want to spend money to get to masses.
They do. And
because I've been in that business, just like you guys would say, here's my metric. What I'm saying is that at some point, the person who has the marketing dollars is looking at, if I spend $2 million on this idea, does this make sense?
Yep.
Or if I have to do a mobile marketing tour that has $50,000 worth of production that's been done in VR, does that make sense? Given the fact that my people can't go home and look at that.
Right.
It's obvious that Google.
I'll jump in here.
Ganette's got this.
So with our experiences, yes, there's the mobile component where you're able to download the application, and we're 100% the advertising experience is part of the VR experience that you experience. But we also have a 360 version that you view on the desktop as well, and that so you don't have that barrier there, that it's only for, you're not going to reach all of our user base.
But he's worried because, if he spends that $2 million and it winds up.
You're asking a lot of hypothetical questions, and VR is in a very hypothetical state right now across everything. And, if I'm an advertiser and marketer today, one of the greatest things that Cardboard has afforded is opportunities for marketers to use it as a marketing tool. And if I want to also do something for other platforms, I can do that. And in one day there will be way more devices. There will be more Vives. There'll be more gears. There'll be more of everything. That will happen. We're seeing that happen right now. But for today, a marketer's option is through Cardboard. And it's the only way to, we purposely, and again, Dodo Case can do this as well. You can brand the thing. You can put your logo on it. You can use it as a beautiful marketing tool to just hand out to people at events. I think, although one of the things that we're not doing really well, and I would love to give them out at every single Verizon and AT&T store, is messaging to users take this thing and don't just use it for the one thing that we're telling you to do it for. We'd really like you to hold
Experiment
on
with
to it.
Right.
And that's in the content. The content is a lot of times people that are making content are doing a one-time thing. And we talk about episodic and we talk about reoccurrence and things like that. And there needs to be more of that. There needs to be more of a story that gives people a willingness to hold on to this thing. And also you need more durability in the product. We know that. Cardboard falls apart, plastics don't. Merge VR doesn't. But, that's,
I have a solution.
this is evolving.
I have a solution to this evolution thing, to the underwear problem, the sports problem, and to your $1 million problem. Build a killer kiosk using the skills that are right up here, and there can be a kind of a portable, a light version of it that you do, to sort of, the 3D glasses in the magazine version that you do with cardboard, and install it in Victoria's Secret. This fabulous immersive experience that's only available there, and they don't do it in all their stores. They do it in 50 stores. And that will cost $1 million if you do it right, if you design it right. And it is this killer thing, not just doing the usual fakakta stuff that we see on their ads, but it really takes you to places, as it were, that you don't get to go in terms of, maybe Victorian style or something. And it sells their brand, and it sells the experience, and it's emotional, and it engages you and puts you in the middle of the thing. And it's a blowaway thing that gets a lot of ink, and that pays off the $1 million.
Can I just make sure I answer your question though? Because there is one part I think we're missing. We're big fans of the gear, and the Samsung gear, and we actually feel like adoption is coming. It's not that expensive to produce, and it's going to be here. So, give it a year, and then we're going to start to see that. And we're testing and learning on it. And one of the things that we do talk to our clients about is, let's not make these things in a vacuum. And the reason that I said we're not going to spend $1 million is not because we would be happy to thoughtfully spend $1 million on a global piece of work that is going to reach mass. But we're going to do it in a way which we piggyback on some other things that are happening for our clients. So for instance, if you're going on a global shoot with us and we're shooting television, we're going to shoot in 360 along the way. We're going to be smart about the things that we do for our clients. And we're going to talk to them about the audiences that they want to work with and that they want, where they see reach. And then we're going to talk to them about the right platform to develop upon. So I hope that makes sense. But I mean, it really is a conversation that we have with our clients about, where that investment comes from, where we piggyback on other things, and exactly what technology is the right technology to use.
I also can chime in on that. We work with agencies, so we're the content creation side of the brand goes to the agency, goes to us. We have been approached just absolutely nonstop by agencies and brands direct with that very question, right? What do we do? We want to do VR. What are we going to do? And there's two approaches right now. One is make a kiosk type experience, make something that's on, you go to Times Square and you set up 10 Oculus Rifts and, maybe get some Vives or whatever you can do. And you make an event and then you film it and you do a case study and take that to con and then you hopefully get a gold line and that's your plan. Or you can do an app that will hit some kind of volume. So you're either trying to hit a few people and talk about it and try and create buzz about that as an event, or you're trying to release something that as many people as possible will see. Where we are today, and probably for the next 6 to 8 months, is Android, not iOS, cardboard. And that is because of the volume that has. iOS is much harder to get a VR experience on. I can tell you some amazing stories, as can anybody that's developing some for iOS. That's going to change. iOS is going to get smart, and that will be months from now. And cardboard will be an Android and iOS thing. Gear VR will hit volume eventually. First, second quarter next year, people will start getting headsets in volume. That'll start making sense. We're on a long road here. Where we are today, where we will be, very different things. If we start a project and it's a 3-month project, things will be different by the time we hit delivery. So the way we approach it is we can capture and create content that exceeds the capability of a cell phone. We can capture at 60, even 120 frames per second, not stereospherical necessarily, but at least spherical. We can render our CG at that. We can basically be rendering at 12K, 120 frames per second for the headsets that are going to exist 5 years from now. We don't need to. What we need to do is find out sort of what's feasible within the lifespan of that product or whatever it is, and make sure that we're covered off. And the decision of, is it Gear VR, is it Oculus, what do we do, is always going to be driven by the goal. Do you want to, as a brand, just say that you did a VR app? Well, then let's blow it out. Let's make it really cool. Let's make it for whatever headset is the coolest, and we can make the best partnership. Do you want to make something that hits the most number of people? Cardboard, for now. That'll be different in months.
Sir.
So Cardboard did a great job of revealing the market opportunity. Are you seeing like a majority of the manufacturers now change the hardware, like to adapt to say, all right, this is a thing, and year 1 out, year 2 out, they're actually starting to change what they would have done otherwise?
No, I don't think so. I think cardboard is intended. The version of cardboard that we put out and have, it doesn't have a head strap. It's short form. It's intended to go here and here and here and here and here very quickly. I think other devices are including head straps. They are adding Bluetooth controllers. They're adding other things that are different from cardboard.
Well, I guess when the manufacturers I'm talking about are the handset manufacturers, like the various people like Motorola.
OEMs, right? Okay,
yeah,
got it.
Who are saying, you know what, we're going to make the screens higher density.
Yes, okay.
It affects other parts of the cell phone experience. We're going to put more money into the processor or the accelerometer or all of the sensoring.
Yes.
That type of stuff.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think, and if you see what LG did with their plastic version, that was brilliant, and that was January, 6 months ago, and that was them just saying, hey, we've got a great phone with a great screen, and we can build a plastic thing, and here you go. It's a VR device, and everybody wrote about it, and everybody talked about it, and we applauded it. It's great. I would love to see more phone manufacturers and OEMs doing the exact same thing, because there's, just great phones right now that have great screen resolutions and will continue to get better. We're chasing this 4K display. Processors are getting better. I think that there's still more opportunities for OEMs to go beyond and do more plastics, take cases and turn those into cardboard viewers, like this one right here. You could easily see this as, if anybody's seen this is awesome. Literally 2 lenses and my phone, right? So you could see how this could just be a case and this little accordion thing and just pop up like that. And so I'd love to see more OEMs doing that and sell them at retail and sell them and give them away when you buy a phone. And just like, the case market is a multi-billion-dollar case. Why can't that device be similar?
And it will.
Before you move on, though, it's also a software issue. Regina Dugan is the head of the ATAP group at Google. It just keeps coming back to Google. Formerly Motorola, so that it's like their DARPA, essentially, that now Google kept when they gave the rest of Motorola away or sold it. She did an awesome presentation. They were talking about mobile. This was a couple years ago. And the quote that was just jaw-dropping was that the current GPUs that we're using in mobile devices are 17,000% underutilized. The hardware is better than what we're using it. If you looked at DirectX 11 and 12, which is Windows, obviously, they didn't change anything in the hardware, but it's 600% better in terms of the amount of data it can push. It's just a software change.
It's like our brains.
Yeah. So there's absolutely more that the OEMs could do in terms of put more power into it. But we could be using, for us, we're using Unity, we're using Unreal. Unity needs to get better at using these technologies, but Android also needs to get better at using these technologies. Yeah, exactly. Metal is a great example. Jumping to 64-bit, doing things that are not necessarily these really hard You know, going from 1080p screens to 4K is a big, hard problem to solve. But you could just make the GPU better, and we can push a couple 100,000 more polys, and we can do more interesting things. Or, you know, frame rates could get, you know, up to 60 or 80, or, you know, all these things. It's hardware and software, and we're content creators. We're not going to go rewrite, you know, OpenGL for Android. So for us, we can't wait for our partners to do not a better job. They're doing a great job, but do it, you know, use what we've got better.
A couple more and we'll go home.
Can you talk about a little bit about what Google's Spotlight Stories are doing right now? As far as I know, I believe this is the main reason because, let's say, that Cardboard was afforded to release the Spotlight Stories as a medium, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know too much about the team, but the you know, one of the best demos that we have in the demo app, in the Cardboard demo app that was released when we first released Cardboard, was the Windy Day demo. And if anybody doesn't know what Spotlight Stories is, it comes out of the ATAP group that Andy has mentioned, and it is essentially an interactive way of engaging with video. They've done some really cool things with in Windy Day, where you literally, until you find the point of interest that you are supposed to be finding, so the story will start. Until you get to that point, the story doesn't go. And you know, things like that, like markers, annotations, things with light, things with sound. These are all key elements of content creation in VR, by the way. I'm sure everybody who is making content knows that. It's a, I think, you know, sound and audio is just amazingly important and really cool when you see it and you hear it correctly in VR. But the team is working, I think, on some stuff, and I think as long as they keep doing cool stuff like Windy Day and beyond, they're going to make some really great stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a question for the entire panel. First of all, thank you so much. I'm using film history as a guide to the future. The talkies. The problem with the talkies is that we didn't have a delivery system for sound until the speaker system was invented. Color, and then moving from negative to digital, and from 2K to 4K. And 3D. 3D, for example, they said everybody go buy your own TVs, 3D, and it didn't do very well, but it's thriving in theaters. So I think the next step here, and this is a question for all of you, don't you think that the next step would be VR theater? And that would be the next step, rather than everybody's wearing a device, we'll have a beautiful, unified experience. What do you say?
You mean a place that you go and there's headsets?
Theater right now,
Sure.
you go by to get
Okay.
the glasses, and then so it would be shot for VR. Maybe one of the actors would be wearing a helmet over his head, whatever. But
That's a new kind of theater, my friend.
well, that's
Theater
well,
on the ground.
yeah. Well, Disney had it in '55.
I'm just addressing your question.
Right. It's a theater
So-
around.
so
and
There's some exploration happening
Right.
with this. Ted Shilowitz is
so
leading the
don't you think
Barco
that's the next
Theater.
step for
I-
taking VR, like busting the door open.
I think it's a part of the ecosystem. And what Ted is doing is really interesting because he's allowing filmmakers to look at 3 screens, right? And some of the test work that we've seen is absolutely gorgeous, but it's very expensive. And you have to be super thoughtful about the way that you shoot. You have to be dead on, and it's math. It's like incredible math, right? And so to get filmmakers to invest and shoot is what needs to happen. And then he also has to get mass on the Barco side. So if you're not familiar with it, it's essentially 3 very large screens. And there are also challenges with where you sit in the theater as well. So, I mean, I'm not saying that that's not the next step or the next evolution, especially for, you know, certain venues. Like when you think about, you know, large cities like LA and New York, et cetera, that can support that kind of an ecosystem and can put the money into it. And I do think it's important, but I don't personally think it's the thing that will push VR forward. That's my personal
I don't think there's any seating in a 360 theater, if you think about it. If we're on a, whatever, 30-degree ramp up, those people in the upper back row, what are they gonna be looking at? So when we talk 360, we're gonna have to talk flat floor, and we're gonna have to talk to short people who are in the middle on a riser. Just to be.
That's where I sit.
I'm trying to be honest about this. This is real thinking in my head. So if you're a 360, you're sitting in the back of the theater, what's your experience?
There is no back.
Excuse me, there has to be a back, so there's always, I know, I'm saying, if you're seated,
No, he'll be standing.
you'll be standing, that's what I'm saying, you'll have to stand. There is
No one that I know of. Do you guys know of anyone that's trying to investigate what he's
It was
talking about right
available
now?
at Walt Disney
I don't think-
World.
Exactly.
It was
Yeah, maybe at Disney.
Sure.
Disneyland.
Yeah. I mean, I think theme park, absolutely. I think in the theme parks, you're going to see a lot of things that are augmented reality, mixed reality. I think you're going to see a ton of really interesting things happening there and connections across channels. Yet again, like if you think about gaming and, you know, Disney, I think there's all kinds of incredible things that will happen.
Yeah.
But I just don't,
Yeah.
It'll happen.
it's just going to take time. though.
There's concerts that are entirely headphone based, where you just go and you get a little wireless, you bring your own headphones, and or there's events where it's all app controlled. They're niche events. I'm interested in them, but I don't know that they're mass market. But who are we to say? I mean, cut to 2 years from now, sure. I mean, build it. I'll go check it out. I don't know.
Sorry, Marty, let me throw out just an additional thought from a completely different angle, which is one thing that really surprised me as we've gone out there and gotten feedback is kind of the humble 3D movie. Just as simple, you go onto YouTube, search SBS video, simple side-by-side format video. And I've been floored by the number of people told me, I bought one of the first Samsung 3D TVs. It was 15 feet or so across the room and it just didn't work. But for some reason, it just makes sense. It actually works for some reason that I can't fully explain. But even the humble 3D experience is still out there. And even if it doesn't always have to be a 360 video, just a simple, side-by-side format video, that's still out there available and is still fairly immersive with this new mobile platform.
One last, and then we'll merge this and reality. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, when talk of Barco, I'm kind of amused because it's like everyone's forgotten Cinerama.
Oh yeah,
no.
3 screens, right?
In this division, we have the last of the Cinerama screens, and that was a 3-screen projection system.
Yeah.
It lasted about 5 years, and everybody lost their shirts. So I don't know that we really need another 3-screen projection system. It failed.
I mean, I will just say that I've seen a couple things on that screen that blew me away.
Very good.
And I felt the same way that you did. I really did.
Cinerama was amazing, but it wasn't a popular enough medium to justify the cost.
Well, nobody made enough good content, they
They
didn't.
could only do westerns, basically.
Yeah, right, exactly. And military mobility, training for, vehicle training, they used a 3-screen thing. See it, right, you have it right here, 90 degrees of high resolution 3D. And the peripheral stuff, the 130 degrees that you're going for, this stuff can be planar. Actually, that's a trick, by the way, because the rods won't notice. The cones are looking for the 3D stuff. So there's a cheat you can do that'll make it immersive 3D. I want to thank Val and Megan and Aaron and Andrew and Annie and you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marty.
Thanks so much.